I heard him make a statement once that rings true, and he didn't say it in this presentation, but it's the classic. I said, cap and trade is like paying somebody else to go on a diet for you. Nobody uses any less energy. Just everybody pays more for what they get. Just so I don't forget, Chris, I want to give you a little bit of a letter of appreciation and the first ever Bill Posey Congressional Medal of Merit.
Thank you.
And we're going to open it up for some questions now, and I want to be sure somebody asks him how many jobs it costs Spain, how many jobs it costs Great Britain, and how many jobs it's projected to cost our country. And then I want you to tell us a little bit more about your book, where we can get them, how we get them, because I know I'm going to get them. I'm going to be better armed and better informed about this. So.
Okay. Let's start with green jobs. The argument is, now you have to see how this progressed. The president, for months as a candidate, said, look at what's going on in Spain, Germany, and Japan, where they're performing miracles, these Wirtschaftswunders, as the Germans would call it, with better pronunciation, economic miracles by mandating windmills. We'll all be millionaires from selling solar panels to each other. So we took a look at that. In fact, a colleague of mine, who's a professor of economics at University of King Juan Carlos in Madrid, published a study. It's available in English at the Institute for Energy Research website, and it's spell out the word .org. And he showed, it was the first time it was ever undertaken, this assessment, and he used the government's numbers, where he noted that he thought they were too high. For example, jobs created, he would note it. He said, we believe the state created 45,000 green jobs. The European Union claims 50,200. We'll go with the state, even when we believe they're wrong, just so that we'll be above reproach, as if the response is ever to address the facts and not go ad hominem. Well, the response was to go purely ad hominem. Wall Street Journal blogger went ad hominem on him, saying, he used to be associated with a think tank that once took money from ExxonMobil. What about the study? He was with a think tank that once took, standard ploy. So the Wall Street Journal itself editorialized, calling it green joblessness. Here's what happened. The state takes resources out of the economy, which would have been used productively. And they pay about 2.2, not pay the individual, but they have to pay about 2.2 times as much to create an artificial job that exists not because of demand for something, but because the state mandated windmill production and solar panels. Spain, in the south, and in the Canaries, a very sunny country. Now, he found that they destroyed, that is, avoided, at least 110,000 jobs for the 50,000 created. But they also, as you saw, chased out existing real manufacturing jobs because of the rolling blackouts and the energy price spikes. Now, in Spain, the price of energy is controlled by the state. It went up, but the state energy regulatory body said, you have to increase electricity prices another 31% just to pay off the debt from these phony jobs, which, guess what, are temporary. They disappeared. Because it's a bubble. Here's what happens. You have to keep pumping more and more taxpayer money into it at a rate of $2.2 per dollar of what the private sector would require to create a job efficiently. And you have to keep pumping it or they go away. And so of the 50,000 jobs created at the expense of 110,000 jobs, 40,000 are gone. Okay, this was a green bubble with human consequences. They have chased off existing real jobs. All pain, no gain. And so what happened was he wrote this study, and the substantive response has not come out. There was an editorial on Friday by the Communist Trade Union, some academics, to the extent there's a difference, and some windmill industry types attacking him for saying this and renewing the unpatriotic argument. The head of the Renewables Energy Association in Spain issued the response to his study, and they said, Dr. Calzada is unpatriotic because he's letting this cat out of the bag. We have created this industry, and we need the U.S. to essentially bail us out, was his argument. And if they find out, well, and they renewed the unpatriotic argument the other day, I'm told. So the substance wasn't there. He showed something for the first time using government figures, and it caused great embarrassment, and they're attacking him personally. In fact, they're trying to get his contract not renewed as a professor. This is how things work over there. They can throw you around if they want, if you tell the truth. Now, I would expect the president now no longer uses Spain, by the way. White House spokesman Robert Gibbs was asked about the study at a press conference, and he said, I disagree with it. And the reporter said, have you read it? And he said, no. So, a rare moment of honesty. And so now the president stopped saying Spain. And he now says, look what's going on in Denmark, Germany, and Japan. Okay, Denmark and Germany are coming. I'll just tell you. But he said Denmark produces 20% of the electricity they use from windmills. No, they do not, but more on that later. Green jobs kill jobs. It's a classic. You might as well. For example, what they're doing, Congressman, is they're requiring more people, more man hours to produce the same or actually less kilowatts of energy. That's the requirement. We just want to require more workers by state fiat to produce the same amount, or as it proved, less electricity. To take that to its logical extreme, we could require that everybody in this room turn a wheel to produce electricity. Look how many green jobs we created. But very bad for the economy, very inefficient, and, of course, human consequences. That's what green job mandates are.
Okay, we have some time for some questions. Stand up, give your name, be sure to speak real loud, and
This is televised, so they need to go to the microphone.
okay.
Come up and get in line and go to the microphone. This is going to be recorded on the government channel, so we would like to get it recorded.
All right, you heard it from the horse's mouth.
How do you get the books?
Oh yeah, talk about your book for a minute.
Yes. Let me plug real quick. Both are available on Amazon, the books. If you live where I do in a college town, they hide them, so you might just go online. The first is what's called trade paperback. It's very good it's a primer, and it walks through in sort of talking point format, but also many, many, many footnotes. The second one walks through the scandals with the temperature gauges, with the UN, with industry, with the Greens praising China as the kind of system we need in order to get this agenda through, and so on.
And I know I don't need to remind anybody, of course, let's make sure we have our phones off. I should have done that earlier. And let's ask brief questions, no speeches or statements. Yes, sir, you're first.
All right, thanks for coming. Obviously, you've studied this from all angles. What do you think is the grandest benefit of all for the President and Congress if, with wave after wave of legislative interference, they manage to collapse the U.S. economy?
It's a tried and true formula that you've seen in various industries, most recently banking and auto, to wreak a lot of havoc and then say, well, you obviously need more of me to come in and fix things. If we fall for that, we fall for that. If you gain state control over the energy decisions, wrest those decisions from producers and consumers, you control an awful lot. So there is no single unifying motivation. We spend more on climate-related research than we spend on AIDS, and we spend a lot on AIDS. So there's a lot of money here, and as Roy Spencer says, who's a climate scientist, scientists are people too. And Dick Lindzen at MIT says it also makes their lives much easier if they just start studying this and go with the flow. So you've got a lot of money. There's a bottomless well for, politicians, because you'll never fix the problem. You've always got more schemes to reward more constituencies, to move more power to EPA, which is about to become, if we let this happen, a construction permitting agency out of Washington as a result of this. This is the bottomless well for regulatory authority and spending.
Good question. Thank you very much. Next.
I appreciate very much your presentation, and clearly you know your subject. And we sit here and we absorb it, and pretty soon we're going to walk out of this room. And what is it we do differently? What is it we pick up here to start correcting the situation? Because, I'm sure you could stand naked in Washington and scream, but nobody would pay attention.
Tried that. You're right. I might get a grant for it, though.
You might.
The performance art. The congressman's absolutely right. Between your letters to the editor, your letters to your elected representatives, and phone calls, you can change this. Because if someone threatens to punch you 9 times, they're not going to punch you. Congress has for 9 years said, I'm going to do this. You better come to the table and roll over because I'm going to do it. Well, it's been 9 years. You get fewer votes each time you try. You don't have what it takes, Congress, to do this in the open, even hiding it behind cap and trade. The House might pass it. The Senate will not. But that, in getting pointy-headed here, the House passes it, the Senate passes something they call an energy bill, which is more windmill mandates and so on. You get to what's called conference, and suddenly the Senate is confronting it without having to vote on it, debate it. You need to tell them in advance, watching you, Republicans can't kill this, but they can help educate, they can raise a lot of noise. Moderate Democrats can kill it, and I suggest will kill it. And they need to raise a lot of noise. Just real quickly, in 1993, we had a new president, rock star, strong majorities in both houses of Congress. First budget proposes a large energy tax. Stop me when this sounds familiar. And the House passed it after they promised him, don't worry, we're with you, we won't pull the rug out from under you. It's called the BTU tax. I have a slide here where Al Gore told the Financial Times, that cost us control of Congress because the public got wind of it. And the Senate marched down Pennsylvania Avenue and told the new president, this is how Washington's going to work. We need to protect jobs, ours. And we're not going to get caught voting for an energy tax increase. The economy was coming out of the tranche at the time. We can't say that now. This was in the name of deficit reduction, which was very sexy at the time. This is in the name of something that continues to refuse to reveal its head, who has a long-term polling problem, global warming. And the more people see, still it's not illegal to look out the window. And so I would say that you need to keep when you read the stories and you see the word could, may, might, write letters to the editor and say, why don't you say could not, may not, might not? And stop saying cooling is consistent with warming. Lots of snow, no snow. Lots of hurricanes, no hurricanes. Warming, cooling, all are consistent with what we would expect. Call your newspapers on this, because they're voluntary players in this, in the activist community. But I would tell the phone calls and the letters to the members of Congress saying, I am watching you, I know how this is going to work, and do it at your own peril, because you are putting our economy at risk.
Okay. I got a couple of follow-up. One is, where are the leaders in the Congress moving in the right direction, or could be moving in the right direction?
Right here is one of them. I mean,
Well, I see that. With all due respect, and he's a freshman, and the powers are in the committees. The powers are in the committees.
Okay, the power's in the podium. The congressman has a podium. The power's with you. He's got the microphone. You've got the power. Now, I have in the past few weeks done town hall meetings for several members. Last week was in Indianapolis with a group of members, including several freshmen, with Mike Pence in Indianapolis and Pittsburgh, Governor Daniels, and so on. People are coming to listen to this, to find out. Fred Upton, who's hardly a freshman, and Glenn Thompson, who is. Dan Burton, who's hardly a freshman. Pence is in the leadership. You've got a lot of people who are they found their legs on this issue because they know it's an energy tax, but it's a particularly cynical one, and it's in the name of this thing that continues to not show its face, about which people are very, very suspicious. I suggest that you have the power. The congressman has the podium. The question is whether they have the initiative to use it. And fortunately for you, you've got one who does.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Turn that thing around. I got that one backwards. I want that thing to stick out. Make it look good. There we go.
All right.
All right. Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here. My name is Susan Haynes. I have a similar concern to the previous gentleman, and you used the word unpatriotic in one of your statements in reference to something else. To me, it's almost treasonous. I'm very close to using that word with regard to politicians who knowingly are sinking the ship we call America. And we need an army. And I was, first of all, wondering if you would consider a Pickens plan type army, but not associated with Mr. Pickens, and using that as an analogy, some kind of an army where we could, using the internet, get people united as one, march on Washington, just go from there.
Okay, I would take every gathering to insert this issue.
Yeah, you should meet Glenn Beck. You should be on his program.
Beck? No, I've been on his program many times. He's very kind to getting us out, and because he understands, he saw the Enron, the GE connection, and this has got him fired up, and it should have people fired up. Remember, everything I just said about why you should get engaged and how, but I would take every opportunity, because this is something about which a recent poll showed the plurality of people who had an idea about what cap and trade was about thought it was about health care. Mm-hmm. It's about rationing, yes, but not necessarily healthcare rationing. It's about energy rationing. And I would just imagine that, look, in 1993, the public, only because members of Congress, it was Swiss cheesed is what they call it, the amendment. The aluminum guys got an exemption, then the coal guys, then the coke guys. And pretty soon it wasn't worth the candle to the members. I'm not voting for an energy tax increase that has just lost most of its corporate support because the people outside are sharpening the pitchforks. Well, you've just had $4 down here, maybe more gasoline. And that is, remember, it was 11 in Europe. And their transport emissions are still going up. And they are not designed to be as automobile as we are. So start at minimum $11. Looking over the horizon, is this something you agree with? This is the vehicle to get you there. I would just, now's the time. They want to rush this through, of course, because the more you see this, the more it stinks in July. They want to rush this through next week. next month in the House. In the Senate, it will die, but again, they get it to conference to get. Yeah, I believe it will.
My next very quick question is, because all of this is kind of poo-pooing their idea, do we have anything that would support things like electric vehicles and natural gas as a solution? So instead of just saying no, we could say no, but we have the answer here. Something to get us free from foreign oil.
You have a problem with the electric vehicles because what happens if you move automobility onto the grid that we're not even replacing existing capacity for demand? Okay, forget growth. Pretend we don't grow. Let's play Europe for a while, and we don't grow, and we don't have babies. We just need the same amount of electricity. Where are you going to get it? We're not even allowed to replicate existing retiring capacity. And now you want to move cars in a very automobile nation onto the grid. You've got a problem. We've got an awful
electric
lot.
Vehicles charge at night, though.
But you have to burn the coal, and we're not allowed to do that. You have to extract it, and you got to get the gas, and you got to move it. And I've got another book I'm actually working on about this. The lights are going to go out. The lights are going to go out. Okay, forget this for a moment. The lights are going to go out, and we allowed it to happen. The question is how bad is it going to get? And so, yes, we have alternatives. There are no regrets policies. There are some very obvious ones, and there are some that you can only do at the federal level, like allowing businessmen to expense their purchase of capital equipment. That is, it makes it much cheaper to replace your equipment, and you will do it. And guess what? You use a lot less. It's much more efficient. And you will actually see emissions reduced. It's got a diminishing window, but for several years you will actually see emissions reduced in the only way, other than economic collapse, that we know to reduce emissions, unless you're willing to go full-bore nuclear now. And we've proven that politically we're still going to, well, nuclear's scary, coal's dirty, gas frightens me. I'll just rely on electricity.
Those doors have to be opened.
But our answer is all the above,
Right.
but they won't hear of it. But our answer is let the market decide. Drill here, drill now. Just.
That's what I was going to ask you. Thank you, Congress. That was my question. What happened to drill here, drill now last year when gas was $4 a gallon? We've got enough natural gas in the Gulf of Mexico to support us for many, many years. We've got enough oil in Alaska. We don't have to depend on foreign oil anymore. Let's start there and then work on energy conservation and clean cars and all that. What happened?
It works for me. We don't have the votes. We just don't have the votes.
When you go back, you tell those people that we don't forget and we're watching them all.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the things you might know is here in Brevard County, one of our big environmental issues, the endangered, threatened species of the manatee. And in Titusville, there's a power plant that is Florida Power and Light's trying to upgrade and have less thermal emissions, especially into the water. But the regulators required them to increase their thermal emissions so that the manatees, which are threatened, keep coming and don't die in the winter. And so my mechanical engineering education tells me that you don't get hot water without burning a fossil fuel. So what I'm wondering is, how we in Brevard County are going to pay for our electricity if all of a sudden all this carbon is going to get more expensive, but we have to keep warming the water for manatees. I mean, where does this end?
It ends with the lights going out and people having had enough. FPL is trying to ride the back of a tiger, and they're going to end up like the rest of them inside. FPL is pushing the green agenda. Isn't this great? We put a bunch of money in windmills, which will never make money, but for this agenda being implemented. Okay, and now they're worried about the other side of that sword. Well, FPL, I'm sorry to say, energy companies have got to figure out that you're going to have to say, I'm an energy company. My job is to produce and deliver energy, and I'm going to have to do what I'm going to do it cleanly and responsibly, but I also have a responsibility under the law to keep the power going. And they have set up a conflict that's very difficult to resolve. You want specifically, I think you need to tell FPL to remember their original priorities and operate within the law as all. I mean, the exception is those who do not, and it is the caricature of all, and that's not true, and that's unfortunate. But sadly, there are too many companies like FPL, sadly, who are pushing the global warming agenda, helping frighten people about the environment, which, by the way, we are, with a growing population and growing economy, pollutants continue to drop. How is this possible? It's possible because man is very, very innovative. And by the way, rich societies demand this, not poor societies. And economies that turn down lose their interest in amendments to the Clean Air Act. Go ask Haiti about their Clean Air Act. Go to Mexico and see what's cleaner, Mexico or the U.S. Wealthier's healthier, wealthier's cleaner. Wealthier, more Florida, less Bangladesh is the global warming short answer. But you're getting into blowback issues of pushing the environmentalist agenda, hoping to gain rents, which is what FPL is facing.
Thank you.